God of War Ragnarok spoilers. They're out there.
Oh.
And Cory Barlog is furious. Cory Barlog is the Santa Monica Studios creative director, and he basically hopped onto Twitter and he tweeted out, right now I can really understand the benefit of having just an installer on the physical disc. Shaking my head. A retailer selling the game nearly 2 weeks before release. Just so disappointing. I'm sorry to everyone that you have to dodge the spoilers if you want to play the game fresh. This is obviously in reference to God of War Ragnarok. Completely fucking stupid you have to do this. This is not at all how any of us at Sony Santa Monica wanted things to go. To be clear, I was expressing my frustrations in the first tweet, not advocating for that at all. Not the future I wanted as a gamer or a dev. Just so beyond frustrated. It feels terrible for the team. This whole ordeal is incredibly stressful for all of us. Mental health break time. So basically, God of War spoilers are out there, and Cory Barlog and a lot of people are mad about it. I get why people are mad. It sucks because, this game has been in the works for 4 years at this point that we've been waiting for this, and the story is really what this game sort of hangs its hat on. It feels like for every major Sony release, there have been some pretty big spoilers for the story. But yeah, how do you take this?
I'm worried about I think first of all, Cory, I know this has been your life for so long, but don't let this ruin your celebration lap for this game, because this game is still going to do well. It's going to sell well. It's going to be a good game. So for I know when stuff like this happens, it can ruin a day. And I hope this doesn't ruin their launch. The thing that I worry about is one thing that a lot of these games do. Nintendo does this a lot. Sony does it a lot with its first party games, is make sure that people get these games early. This game has been out in the wild for a couple weeks already in terms of reviewers having it and previewing it.
Yeah.
They had an initial embargo last week for a certain amount of the game that people could talk about. I believe the review embargo is Thursday. When is the? Do you know when that is?
Third.
The third. Yeah. Thursday, November 3rd. So so that's coming up. I worry that companies are going to do this less and less and have these games giving people plenty of time to talk about it, drum up excitement about it, because they're worried it's going to get not stolen, or people are going to release or talk about it. This seems like it's even worse because it's a retailer. Do you know what retailer it was that did this?
No, he tweeted that, but I don't know what he's specifically talking about. I don't know if there was something that was going around with this or what, but yeah, I don't know exactly what he's referring to when it comes to this specific retailer he's talking about.
Yeah, I think that is a concerning thing. But this stuff happens all the time, I think, and it happens way too often. But also, I know spoilers are a big deal, but this happens.
I think this was with the Rockstar stuff that Neil Druckmann tweeted out, this sucks. It always sucks. And someone who's been working on these games, you never want things to come out this way. But at the end of the day, your game will come out and it will be excellent and people will love it. And the spoilers will be a footnote on the Wikipedia page for the game, or not even, maybe even that, right? It will be such a footnote of all of this, and it will not be what the game is remembered for. That's not to say it doesn't suck. That's not to say this isn't extremely disappointing for the people who've been working on it. But I get the frustration, but it is also just this will not ruin the game. I promise. People will still love this. This is not the only reason why people are coming for this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it just goes back to, I think the bigger thing is the people who get this stuff and then post about it and then try to get other people to find out about it. And then it just creates this culture of negativity. I just wish, I don't know, what it would take for people just to be better people. And even if this game was sold by a retailer, and from what I'm looking here, they just said it was an outlet, a store. They didn't really say what it was. And I think they don't want to advertise for this store, obviously.
Yeah.
But like when this stuff happens, like why do people, their first thing is that, oh, we got to find a way to publish it, profit off of it, get clicks off of this. Like that is the stuff that is just the most disappointing. And I think like that is just is that human nature? Is that like what people do when they get this information and they try to like, get fame and notoriety from this stuff? Because that's shitty. And I really hope that people like don't ruin stuff for other people, and they try to keep this stuff hushed and at least allow you to find out whatever spoilers are major in this game don't get out there. Because there was something really cool about the ending of God of War. How you found out like the whole story, and you find out who characters are, and it was a really cool ending. But I don't even think knowing that would have ruined my experience with the game, but it was cool to find it out.
Let me say this. I knew how that game ended, and I still thought it was an affecting moment.
Yeah.
But like I get it. Like I get that people don't like spoilers, and like I completely understand that. But for me, like I don't know. I try to avoid spoilers, but like when things get spoiled for me, to me, it's usually not the end of the world, because there's so many, like a spoiler completely out of context is like removing so much from it. Like if you told me, I guess spoilers for Last of Us 2, if you told me before that game, like, oh, Joel dies, like I would not be happy to hear that. But then when I would play the game, like, I don't know how, I don't know when, you know what I mean? Like there's just so much to it that like, if I hear that, would assume he dies at the end, because that's just how I would assume it. So then playing the game, finding out like, oh, he dies like right at the start. Like that's like the whole game. It's still effective. You know what I mean? Like just something out of context doesn't, to me, really completely ruin an experience. Although people, I know different people get different mileage out of those sorts of things. So that's just my experience.
And I think too with the Naughty Dog thing, I think some of the leaks that were out there with it was like the scene, and like it was a couple things of text that said it was like Joel dies by this way, and you get to play as the person who does it.
Sure.
Like that was like some of the spoiler stuff that come out that people were mad about. But boy, does not tell any of that story. Like I feel like even knowing that, like to me, like having like a little bit of a figuring that this would happen, I was not expecting that to happen so soon. I was not expecting it to happen in the way it did. I was not expecting that second half turn and everything like that. Like there's so many like things about it that I think even knowing that spoiler or knowing it kind of like just set my expectations one way, and then it allowed me to go a completely different way. And I think that's what good storytelling is. And I have faith. I say this today, Halloween, a few more days until November, or hours till November, that God of War Ragnarok is going to have those moments. And even if you know the story, the performances and the actors and the presentation of everything is going to more than make up for what you found out in a spoiler from a screenshot. Agreed.
And people get so weird about spoilers too. Like, people will like think that the premise of something is a spoiler. You know what I mean? Like, I guess I'm having a hard time. Like, I'm not trying to just like make up a guy, you know what I mean? And be like, fuck that person. Cause like, that's just not how it works. But like people, it's very hard to say anything concrete about a game and its story and anything. Otherwise people are going to be like spoilers, when it's like, no, this is like the inciting incident of the video game. Like, this is like what the story is about, you know? And it's so wild too, because when I personally write a review of a video game or try and talk about a game, so little of the time when I am reviewing it, I think is actually devoted to the moment-to-moment narrative beats. You know, like I'll mention the premise of a story, and I'll mention whether or not I think it was effective, but I'm not going to be out here saying like, I'm not going to be out here like giving a rundown of every single narrative beat, because to me that's not what's important about a review or something like that. But I don't know, even if someone was like, hey, in The Quarry, it is about werewolves, I would be like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's the premise. But I think a lot of people would be like, okay, well, that was a spoiler, you know?
Yeah. But I like to think of it like, as an English teacher, when you go ahead and start teaching a book, when you teach Romeo and Juliet, hey, guess what, everyone? Romeo and Juliet, they're gonna die at the end of this. First of all, they say that in the beginning of it, but like
of the
yeah, but like that is like you're forming context. And I think a lot of times with books, the logic is you're going to read this once, most of these students, and they're never going to come back to it. So you're
Right.
like helping them get to that moment sooner, like so they can like, as they're reading it, well, what leads to that moment? And I think the same thing goes with a video game. Knowing how it ends or knowing a key moment to it, it allows you to know how you got to that point and follow the characters to that point. Because Last of Us Part 2, it's a 24-hour game. You're like, it's hard to beat it less time than that, right? And like,
Yeah.
you know, the thought of people playing that game twice back to back so soon after each other, I'm sure some people do it, but like that's a big ask for people. So like being able to like experience that like second set of eyes already on your first time going it, knowing where it's going to lead, I think that's a fascinating way to study things, to understand things better. So I'm not advocating for spoiling here, but I am, I really am feeling for Santa Monica Studios for feeling like they have been punched in the gut like this. Like to me, that's the hardest thing to see, because this should be a moment of just enjoying what's coming for this game.